This episode is sponsored by State Farm. Choices are great. Like with your podcasts, you get to choose what you want to listen to. And State Farm believes insurance should work the same way. That's why the State Farm Personal Price Plan helps you get the coverage you want at an affordable price and a policy that helps cover what you value most. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Call or go to statefarm.com today to create your State Farm Personal Price Plan. Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
Scott for Scots here. You ever want to grow new grass faster? Kinda like when you press the 2x playback button on your podcast so you can speed through episodes. Except at Scott's Turf Builder Rapid Grass, you're speeding your way from a thin and damaged lawn to a thicker, stronger one in just weeks. Bit too fast, maybe slow it down, okay. Let's just go back to normal speed.
Get a bag of Scott's Turf Builder Rapid Grass today. It grows grass 2 times faster than seed alone when applied at the new lawn rate, subject to proper care.
Feed your lawn. Feed it.
The Purple Mafia, with your host, Paladino Joey.
Well, we'll see. The doctors would disagree, but what do they know?
So let's just say that you'll pay me because it's in your interest to pay me.
Is it worth it? I mean, you've won. Do you want to wipe everybody out?
I don't feel I have to wipe everybody out, Tom. Just my enemies. That's all. My father taught me many things. He taught me, keep your friends close, put your enemies closer.
These are wonderful things that we've achieved, and there's no limit to where we can go from here.
Welcome to the family here on Purple Mafia, episode number 41 today, Sunday, the 13th of 2009. I thank each and every one of you for joining me today, downloading and listening to Purple Mafia. Very much appreciated, as we are available on thesportstuff.com and on iTunes. I am your host, Joey Awajan, or Paladino Joey. So now you know how to pronounce my last name, as I got to start saying that more appropriately. Don't know why I hadn't been the last year and a half, but whatever. Well, the Vikings were able to pull out a victory today, which is outstanding. But before that, real quick, on thesportstuff.com, there is a button on the right-hand corner that says TSS Boards. Simply click on that. That is how you can sign up for our message boards and join about 400 members, where you can vote on our polls. You can interact with me, the podcaster, and other podcasters on the website. You can talk about sports of any kind. You can talk about politics, video games, whatever it is. It's on there, folks. It is 100% free and 100% fun. Also, on thesportstuff.com, we have a call-in line, which is a voicemail, so simply treat it as such. The number is 209-736-7TSS. 209-736-7877 is the number. As mentioned, it is a voicemail, so when you call it in, simply mention you are calling for Purple Mafia. Do leave your any type of information you like, a shout-out, question, comment, whatever it is. It'll be welcome on air. Keep it to about a minute, and you will hear your voice with mine here on Purple Mafia. Well, the guest of the show today will specifically be the game, and then we will have preview for next week's game against the Detroit Lions. So that is the guest of the show today. So with no further ado, we are going to take our first break, and we will talk about today's game after this.
Here on thesportstuff.com, the new fast-breaking Wolves are bursting on the scene with Timberwolves Explosion. Hear about this exciting new era with Al Jefferson, Kevin Love, Johnny Flynn, and new coach Kurt Rambis. Check us out on thesportstuff.com and on iTunes, where we cover the Wolves like nobody else. Show your true blue, download and listen to this explosion of Timberwolves basketball.
And we are back here on Purple Mafia. Is it episode number 41, which is a reminder, for iPod users. Well, the Minnesota Vikings do pull out a 34-20 victory in Cleveland today. It sure was a lot closer starting out the game than in how it finished, I'll tell you that. I mean, this game was not quite as dominant by the Vikings in the first half, so we're going to get into that first half right now. As Brady Quinn was finally named the starting quarterback of the Cleveland Browns, a lot of us figured that was coming for forever, as he is called the Golden Boy there in Cleveland. And, of course, there were all these media rumors all week about it. And, well, there he was, number 10, quarterback of the Cleveland Browns. Congratulations to him. And at least he's healthy this time. As the Browns would open the game with great field position, they win the coin toss. Good return. And as the Vikings, yeah, we're going to get into that too, the punt and kick, well, the kick coverage of the day. Yeah, well, good thing it wasn't a close playoff game or something, right? Yeah. That kick coverage, I'm telling you, man. I am telling you. All right, let's get to it. Quinn was fairly sharp early, and the Browns would draw first blood as they were to get a 37-yard field goal from Dawson to make it 3-0 Cleveland. That was the disappointing part. It was like, what the heck? It's 3-0 Cleveland already? Come on. But at least they didn't get into the end zone. As we know, they had a drought from mid-November last year for an offensive touchdown. Think about how pathetic that is. That's how bad things got in Cleveland last season, late in the year. That is amazing. All right. As now, here we go. Number 4 in a white jersey, a white and purple jersey. In a regular season game, he really is the Vikings quarterback. It wasn't just some kind of rumor, some kind of like government conspiracy or something. You know, that he was the quarterback of the Vikings. He really is, because there it is. He officially is the starting quarterback in a regular season game for the Vikings. And oh goody, his first series was a complete wash as the Vikings go 3-out. That was disappointing. The Browns defense looking like the Vikings defense, just nothing going on. But then the Vikings defense steps up and forces the Browns into a 3-out as well. And then on the following drive, the Vikings get the ball back, of course. Jeff Dugan. How about this? Jeff Dugan showed his value when he gave the Vikings a tough 5-yard run for a first down. So that was one of the highlights of that series. Unfortunately, though, with 3 chances, as the Vikings got all the way to the Cleveland 3, all the way up to the Cleveland 3, the Vikings were snuffed and had to settle for a chip shot 21-yard field goal from the best kicker in the NFL, Ryan Longwell. I got a little heat for taking him as the top kicker in fantasy football. Just you watch, guys. Just you watch. He helped me get to the Super Bowl last year, and he will get me there again. Thank you very much. All right. So now the Browns get the ball back as they... that was such an exciting first quarter. That was pretty much the end of the first quarter about at that point. As yes, it was. What an exciting first quarter. The Vikings defense stood strong again as the Browns were snuffed as their drive. They got one first down. Looked all right, but then Brady Quinn was buried by a Kevin Williams sack, the first of the day. So it was like, here we go, and now we're going to get some sacks. There were 4 total sacks for the Vikings today. I'll get into that shortly. As on the ensuing punt, folks, Darius Raynaud would catch the ball at the 50 and have a huge 36-yard return, setting the Vikings up for what would result with 2 big Adrian Peterson plays, including a nice 18-yard reception. So looking like Brian Westbrook a little bit there. Nice 18-yard reception. He caught it about 11 yards and then made a couple broke some tackles. Yeah, looking like Brian Westbrook there, as he mentioned that he would like to be more of a receiving running back this year, like to be more involved with that as well. Fantasy owners rejoice as Adrian Peterson is getting even better, folks. He's getting even better because after the 18-yard reception, Adrian Peterson did what he did 3 times today. He got a goal line touchdown. Well, the third one wasn't a goal line touchdown, but it was a touchdown nonetheless. Yep, goal line score, putting the Vikings up 10-3, and it's like, kumbaya, here we go. Ain't no stopping us now, right? Ain't no stopping us now. As the Browns now here's where things get a little bit complicated here. Are you ready, folks? Are you ready? Let's just say this drive, I was taking notes quite a bit during this drive. It's a pretty thick thick little note here. The Cleveland Browns, during their drive, it appeared that Vickers had fumbled, and Vikings recovered the ball. Then the Vikings challenged because the ball was just ruled down, Cleveland ball, first down, whatever. The Vikings then made a challenge. The official decided it was a fumble, but there was not clear-cut recovery by the Vikings. Oh, goody. So now Cleveland Browns get to keep the ball. And we lose a timeout and a challenge. So Childress not too happy there. I'm not upset with Brad Childress for making that call because guess what? That should have been Vikings ball. There were 4 purple jerseys, and if there was a brown jersey there, I sure the hell didn't see it. Pardon my French, if that's really that much of a swear word, but I didn't see it. Ridiculous. On the next play, Jamal Lewis, this guy's not done yet, folks. Jamal Lewis scampered on the sidelines for a 15-yard gain and was hit helmet to helmet and was on the ground for about 2 minutes or so, but luckily Lewis was okay. He sat out only one play, then gave Cleveland another first down. Quinn then threw a 34-yard bomb to Braylon Edwards for a touchdown to add insult to injury. Cedric Griffin was blown for a pass interference. Oh, but guess what, folks? You know how it's like, oh, goody, Cleveland's touchdown drought's over. No, it isn't. Brad Childress then challenged the play as the complication continues here, saying Edwards had stepped out of bounds, which means he's an ineligible receiver, right? But then the argument is the question was, did Cedric Griffin push Edwards out of bounds? Or was it more just interference and pushing him forward to try to miss the ball? Thankfully, the challenge was accepted, as they say that Edwards did not reestablish himself in bounds with both feet. So that's the thing. He did not reestablish. So he was pushed out of bounds, but did not reestablish his feet in bounds. So it's like even more complicated in that sense. As sure, he was pushed out, but he was pushed out, so it's still a pass interference, but not a touchdown, basically is what happened. As mentioned, Braylon Edwards did not reestablish his feet in bounds. Cleveland got the ball at the 6, and oh, bummer, they couldn't get a touchdown. Oh, bummer, as Ray Edwards had buried the Browns getting his sack. That's the second sack of the game. They'd have to settle for another field goal, making it 10-6. Vikings ending an amazingly drawn-out and complicated series. That was something else, folks. That was something else. You should just see my notes here. Anyhow. The Vikings get the ball back, and it's like, okay, let's bust this thing open. Let's stop screwing around here. We're just getting this party started, right? Nope, 3 and out for the Vikings, despite opening with a 9-yard reception to Rice. A quick, vintage Favre throw to Sidney Rice. 9-yard gain, so it's 2nd and 1, and they still couldn't get one lousy yard forward, as Peterson was pushed back twice. Very frustrating there. 3 and out. Well, Peterson was pushed back one. Yeah, Peterson was pushed back twice in that one. Very frustrating there. The Browns' drive wasn't much better. Things kind of get a little boring here for a while. They went 3 and out. Another 3 and out for the Vikings. Favre sacked, and a completion to Taylor comes up short. He was short by about 2 to 3 yards or so because it was 3rd and 15 at the time. Just whatever. That's how it goes. So now the Vikings have to punt. And here we go again, folks. Here you go again. Cleveland returner Joshua Cribbs, I apologize, would show the Vikings still have holes in their kick coverage, and he would return the kick 67 yards for a touchdown. The Vikings gave up 7 return touchdowns last year, by the way, folks. 7. Well, there's number 1 right there. Only 6 to go. You know, how frustrating is it to see those kickoff return touchdowns or punt return, any type of kick return touchdown? It is just, it's been going on in here in Minnesota since I've been watching them since 1992. Now, I'm old enough to have watched 80s Vikings football, but yeah, I started in 92, and I'm telling you, special teams coverage has been a problem since 92, guaranteed, and probably further back, like 1961. Yeah, I'm getting, it drives me nuts. Drives me insane. The Cleveland frickin' Browns lead the Vikings 13-10, and it's like, are you serious? So one and a half minutes remain. Percy Harvin would then try to show what he can do. because he would come out of the end zone. He's determined as all heck to try to get a 100-yard touchdown here. He gets 25, so at least he didn't get buried back at the 15, drawing the ire of coaching staff, like you would when you could just knee it down and get it to 20. But yeah, he got to the 25, not bad at all. Looking pretty good, did Percy Harvin and Raynaud. So at least our kick returning looks good, but our kick coverage, it's like a permanent problem, man. Unfortunately, though, the Vikings would have yet another unimpressive 3-and-out, as Cleveland's defense was looking pretty damn good at that time. I mean, they looked like the Vikings' front four at the time. It was ridiculous. The front three, I guess. They're a 3-4 defense. Quinn would have a minute and 4 seconds with the ball at their 39-yard line. So they had a pretty good field position, but they didn't do squat. They had a 3-and-out to finish the half, and they just basically kneeled it down at the end. They're like, heck with it. It's pointless now. Crowd was booing, even though their team was winning the game against a possible Super Bowl team, Minnesota Vikings. And how about this stat, folks, going into the half? Write this down. For those of you that didn't get to see this game, write this down. Peterson had 24 yards in the whole first half and only 1 yard in the second quarter. So write that down, folks. Things are about to change significantly. The second half rolls along. As here comes the second half. Percy Harvin, baby. Percy Harvin this was a sign that things were on the way. As you could just tell, the team, the coaches were like, okay, this is bullcrap. We're not supposed to lose to this Cleveland Browns team. This is bullcrap. Let's just show these SOBs what we can do. And let's show every announcer, whoever they are across the world what we can do. Every podcaster that does the show Purple Mafia. Yeah. All the media members. Heck, I'm media member. Mm-hmm. Yep. Let's show these sons of guns what we can do. Percy Harvin comes out 41-yard return. So it's like, okay, it looks like they were just kidding in the first half and we're going to play football now. And they did. They did. That was the awesomest part. Adrian Peterson, though, had an IV during halftime due to hydration issues, and it was a pretty quiet locker room. People were a little scared. But whatever they put in that IV, I'd like some myself. As the announcer said that, I would too. I could use a little bit of that because, oh boy, it gets pretty amazing. As Peterson gained the first down with 2 quick runs, it was just he looked like Terrell Davis, just 5 and 5, boom, boom, boom. Let's go, first down, Terrell Davis, baby, showing no ill effects from what happened in the halftime as the hydration was kicking in. And Percy Harvin then had his second 11-yard rush of the game, but they didn't mention this earlier. Had his second 11-yard rush of the game. So they're even using him as a running back. So both times they used him, he gained 11 yards on the ground. Very awesome. Mr. Versatile himself, Percy Harvin. Favre, though, unfortunately, immediately after that, had to burn a timeout. You could just see him say, damn it, as the clock was expiring. The game clock was expiring. Didn't have a choice. Then he aired it out to Rice. So it's like, ooh, we're not going to play that conservative crap again. It almost looked like last year the whole first half was just that conservative dump pass the whole time. And all of a sudden, Favre's airing it out to Sidney Rice. Looked really good, caught the ball, but unfortunately Rice's left foot was ruled out of bounds, or it would have 35-yard touchdown. There was some argument if he was in or not, but I guess he wasn't. Whatever. As Favre then hit Schenko in a pinch. It was just a quick play, really quick release, quick move, everything, who was then able to gain the first down. Another air attempt by Favre to Rice. This one was called pass interference, defensive pass interference, putting the Vikings at the 4, and to hyped up Peterson. Like, this is when Adrian Peterson, something changed in this son of a gun, man. He was like, okay, I'm going to tear you people to pieces. I mean, he was just all getting revved up with his teammates and stuff. Like, hell yeah, let's kick some butt here. He was stopped at the 1 twice, forcing 3rd and goal, but the third time was a charm as AP would get his second goal line touchdown of the game, ending a very impressive drive by the Minnesota Vikings, 17-13. And ladies and gentlemen, we never looked back, folks. Vikings never looked back. This third quarter was a beauty. 14-0 in favor of Minnesota, by the way. But Rashard Lewis, I'm telling you, this guy, Jamal Lewis, Rashard Lewis. Yeah, this isn't Baltimore. He was in Baltimore, but yeah. Jamal Lewis looks like he still has it, folks. Let's just say Marcus was offered a trade one of the players on his team that wasn't that good for Jamal Lewis. He asked me if I should, if he should do the trade. I was like, yeah, absolutely. This guy's still a decent player, and he had a pretty solid year. He certainly helped Marcus's team, and Jamal Lewis looks like he still has it. So some fancy players out there, I wouldn't be too if for whatever reason he's floating around on your free agency list, and you need a running back really bad. Hey, this guy still has it, folks. In my opinion, 2 very solid runs of 11 and 8 on that ensuing drive. Unfortunately, Nickelback Benny Sapp, as I forgot to mention in previous shows, that Benny Sapp actually won the Nickelback job, not Asher Allen, as he worked extremely hard in the training camp and ended up beating out Asher Allen ever so slightly. It was amazing, but he apparently was carted off, and he banged his fist on the cart. And there was all kinds of talk about, at first it might be just cramps, but I don't know, he looked pretty upset. And to this point, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not sure. Not sure what happened. There's no report I could find on Benny Sapp yet, so I apologize for that. Hope and pray he is healthy. Man, this son of a gun worked his butt off to earn that Nickelback spot. So, let's get back to the game, though. Quinn then threw the ball right to Cedric Giffen, who would not disappoint. He made the catch. It was all Willie Mays styles. He made over the head catch. Boom, caught it and then kind of slid out of bounds. Vikings ball, and you could just feel the Cleveland Browns. You could just feel the air coming out of the building right there, as the Browns, the energy of the Cleveland Browns was pretty dang good in the first half. And it's like, what the heck was that? And he threw it right to him. The Vikings would get the ball at their 20 though, so it was kind of like a punt in a way, but still. That's how it goes. A bloody Adrian Peterson would then give the Vikings a first down. And I say bloody because the hole where the IV was put in apparently wasn't sealed properly, and it was bleeding all over the place. But, yep, a bloody Adrian Peterson would give the Vikings a first down. Favre was sacked again, as the O-line flat hadn't given Favre much protection to this point. And, no, it was very frustrating. Up to that point, it seemed like Favre had no time to throw the ball. But almost right as I was, right as this frustration was starting to set in, the O-line started to step up. So go figure. Vintage Favre then threw his patented bullet pass to Harvin for another first down, as Percy Harvin and Brett Favre start to make some major chemistry here. Very, very exciting. As yet another first down for Minnesota, as Peterson would make 2 solid runs. So another 5-5 or 5-6 for Peterson, just jamming his shoulder into people's heads and back and forth. Just beautiful stuff. Very determined was Peterson on this day. Taylor would then do what Peterson did, as Chester Taylor went in for him, did the same thing. 2 runs and another first down. As a gutty Vikings team continued to march down the field, Peterson then exploded on the open field, who eventually was stopped at the 15. That was a 25-yard gain. And this long drive was just moving along. You talk about moving the chains. They look like the Denver Broncos, folks, in 97, 98. Looked like Elway hitting his receivers with those quick bullet passes, and Terrell Davis just banging through people. It was a beautiful thing. As Favre and Harvin would show amazing chemistry, as Favre hit Harvin on a bullet. Farvin, as the Farvin tandem. Favre hit Harvin on a bullet pass, moving the Vikings closer, and then the two would embrace in the end zone as Favre would hit Harvin at the 3, who then turned and extended for a touchdown. Vikings 24-13, and you could just feel it, baby. Favre just had the biggest smile on his face. His first touchdown pass as a Viking. Percy Harvin's first touchdown reception in his career, and it comes from the legendary Brett Favre. And in his very first game, his very first real game as a Minnesota Viking. It was just a beautiful thing to see. As Harvin was not doing alligator arms in this game, he was making catches all day. He caught virtually everything thrown his way except a overthrown screen pass to Harvin earlier. Just a beautiful, beautiful combination. Percy Harvin, I think, is going to have a really nice year, as these two are going to be a nice combination. You could just feel it. And Favre has taken Percy Harvin under his wing. And that's all indications that that's what's going on. And it's a beautiful thing to see. Beautiful thing. As here come the Cleveland Browns again. The Vikings were able to hold the Browns to 3rd and 5, but Kevin Willis was called for offsides. And now the Browns got a costly first down. There's the frustration there. The Browns would be 3rd and 8, but this time would be whistled for a false start, so the opposite thing happened. 3rd and 13. A deep attempt by Quinn was badly overthrown, and that would be all she wrote for Cleveland on this drive. And the boos started to really pick up there, as that was weak. That was just a weak play. Weak. Ugly, ugly, ugly. I don't know what Quinn was doing there. I don't think... Just somebody wasn't doing what they're supposed to on that play. Plain as day. As now the Vikings get the ball back right away. A bruising 10-yard run by Adrian Peterson for a first down. Taylor and Kleinsasser would drop passes, forcing a punt after gaining first down. Quinn fumbled, attempting to pass. Quinn just fumbled while attempting to pass. It literally just popped out of his head, like Favre used to do that years ago. And the Vikings recovered at the Cleveland 30. And Peterson exploded on the open field again for another 19 yards, putting the Vikings at the 11. Favre then was sacked, though, unfortunately, all the way back on the 19 as the Vikings were stopped and would settle for a 37-yard field goal, making it a commanding 27-13. The Browns, though, would open their drive with another false start. As you could just see, this team was disoriented. They were about to fold, and boy, did they fold. As they drew the ire of the home crowd even more. A deep pass to Braylon Edwards was dropped, and a short completion would not be enough, and the Browns would punt again. Adrian Peterson showed, though, on the next drive, folks, Adrian Peterson showed the world what he could do. Showed the world who the best running back in the NFL is, if anyone was still unsure. As what did he do on the very first play of the next drive? He did exactly what happened in the Houston Texans game. A handoff, broke a few tackles, and adios, ladies and gentlemen. 64-yard touchdown, 180 yards and 3 touchdowns. Officially at that point in time, Peterson is looking like LaDainian Tomlinson and Terrell Davis at his time. He really is right now, in the prime, 34-13 Vikings. And that would be the end of Adrian Peterson and Brett Favre at that point, because why in the heck would you leave them in? I mean, what would be the point at that? As garbage time sets in now, folks. Garbage time has set in. Another unimpressive series for the Browns yields a punt. Tavares Jackson to take over. Nothing really happened there. Browns were desperately, though, trying to end the touchdown drought from last November. Finally do it. Finally do end that drought as Quinn hits Royal for a touchdown, the tight end Royal of the Cleveland Browns. So that's one less thing for the Browns to hear, at least. But the Vikings would run the clock out. The final score was 34-20, and the Vikings are 1-0, ladies and gentlemen. 1-0. Outstanding. Great feeling, and a flat-out blowout for the Vikings. Very, very exciting game for the Vikings, and very good sign to see things. I mean, it's nice to see a score like that, 34-20 on the road like that. You can tell this team is going to be a major contender this year. I mean, it's plain as day, and I'm going to take a quick break, though, as we're going to get into a preview for next week's game right after this. Here on thesportstuff.com, we're turning up the tempo on Brave the Wild. A new era has come to the state of hockey with new attitude Martin Havlet, a more open style with Coach Todd Richards, and a new philosophy in General Manager Chuck Fletcher. We're available on thesportstuff.com and on iTunes. Answer the call and get ready to brave the wild. And we are back here on Purple Mafia, episode number 41. Another reminder for iPod users. Well, we're going to briefly preview next week's game against the Detroit Lions, as they look to end their losing streak. So another streak looking to end. Hopefully that streak won't end. This game was in New Orleans today. The Detroit Lions played the New Orleans Saints, and the Lions lost 45-27. They were able to muster 17 points in the third quarter, which is good for the Lions, I guess, but the Saints were utterly destroying them. The Lions gave up 6 touchdown passes and only got 1 interception against Drew Brees, 358 yards. And you can argue this is the best offense in the NFL with Brees, especially Brees in general. of the Saints. Just an amazing quarterback, a 5,000-yard quarterback last year. He's going to get a lot of touchdowns this year, but 6 touchdowns? I mean, that just says Brett Favre could have a field day next week, and I hope he does. One thing, though, definitely, which is alarming for the Detroit Lions, is the Saints lost 2 of their defensive linemen this week due to the drug ruling, performance-enhancing drug ruling. They lost them for 4 games. The Vikings, of course, the Williams Wall was acquitted, as I'm not going to really get into that because I don't really like all that steroid stuff. But no, well, I mean, I'll get into it because really briefly here is the good news is the Vikings won't have to worry about it, and that's our best, those are our super-duper star defensive tackles. By the way, Latroy Guion with his first sack in the NFL today. Got enough time to get a sack today. That was really cool to see. So I just thought I'd mention that real quick. Latroy Guion with a sack. Love to see that. But yeah, they lost 2 stud defensive ends on their team. Now I know they're not necessarily run stoppers, but still, that's a defensive line that's very necessary, if you're going to stop somebody. And Kevin Smith still only amasses 20 yards and 15 rushes and a touchdown. So I think Kevin Smith's going to be in trouble when he runs into the Williams Wall next week, as there is no suspensions here. So that's definitely one thing to worry about for him, Kevin Smith. So that's the guy I feared most on this Detroit team at this point in time. The Saints defense, well, good grief. Look at Matthew Stafford. His first game as a starting quarterback threw 37 passes, 205 yards, but his completion percentage, 43%, and he threw 3 interceptions. So Saints defense looking fairly good in that sense. Kelvin Johnson was able to get 90 yards, so that's definitely a guy you got to worry about. He had a 64-yard reception on the day, so that's obviously your top guy. Remember, he had that 70-yard reception last year against the Vikings defense. I don't really fear Detroit that much, but you never know. It's a division game. That is pretty much the thing to worry about when it comes to the Detroit Lions. And Matthew Stafford did get his feet wet ever so slightly playing his first NFL game. And, of course, a much weaker defense than the Vikings will be next week, I would think. The Lions do play at home next week, however. This week they had to go into the Big Easy, as it was a very big, easy game for the New Orleans Saints. 6 touchdowns for Drew Brees, as I mentioned 100 times. Amazing. As for the running game, well, Henderson had 103 yards. Reggie Bush had 55 yards. Meekum had 51 yards. That's the reason. Bell, I'm looking at the wrong area here. Bell had 143 yards. Just amazing. Those are the receptions, from Drew Brees. Just amazing. Henderson with 103 yards receiving. Bush, 55. Yeah, I mean, you got to watch out for the Saints and obviously the Lions. I think the Vikings passing game will explode. Bell amassed 143 yards on the ground, and they're going to be going against Adrian Peterson next week, the Detroit Lions run game for run defense. So, yep, I wouldn't be surprised if Peterson had another huge game, another 150. So we'll see what happens there. As the fun begins. Jeremy Shockey. Now, here's one final thing I'm going to make it fun of really quick here. Jeremy Shockey didn't score a single touchdown last year. The Detroit Lions allowed him to have 2 today. 2. So come on, Brett Favre, go enjoy the passing bonanza next week, because I think there's going to be a lot of passing next week. I do. Remember how Tavares Jackson blew up against them last year? So when after Farrat got hurt, last chance Jackson. And it was nice to see last chance Jackson on the field today, because that meant we were blowing out the Browns. Awesome. Not because of injury to Favre, but because we were blowing the Browns out. Good, good, good. So that will conclude the preview, as we're going to close with the polls. And nobody left a comment, so all I have to say is Minnesota. The question was, who will win the NFC North this year? Minnesota receiving 75%, and Green Bay receiving 25%. Chicago and Detroit not getting any. Chicago not getting any. But no, I don't think Chicago is going to win the division. I actually think they win third. I think Green Bay goes second, Minnesota first, and, of course, Detroit bringing up the rear. So that will be my prediction, of course, for the standings. I didn't even bring that up last show, so I'm briefly doing it right there, right then and there. Not going to do a poll today because the thing is, I can't just come out and say, well, how would you rate Brett Favre's performance again? As that would be kind of silly in a sense, because I just did one 2 weeks ago. And Favre was a big story today, but at the same time, Adrian Peterson was the story. So, yeah, I can't put who was your MVP either, because, I mean, come on. Adrian Peterson is going to get 100% of the votes, even though Favre and Harvin looked pretty darn good today, as did Kevin Williams and E.J. Henderson. Those guys look really, really good. Jared Allen, by the way, quieted significantly today. So, but that's just how it goes when you go against a fairly good young offensive line in Cleveland, as they gave Brady Quinn a lot more time than Brett Favre had today. So that's my final note of the day right there. Yeah, Detroit next week shouldn't be much of a problem, I don't think. I think the Vikings do win. Unless Detroit's defense wakes up out of nowhere, though I don't expect that to happen. Their offensive line is pretty much in shambles. I think the Williams Wall, well, not even necessarily the Williams Wall, more like the Jared Allen, Ray Edwards, maybe Latroy Guyan type players are going to come in and get some sacks on Matthew Stafford. So that's how we're going to conclude the show today. No poll, but thank those of you who voted last week. I do appreciate it, and I'd like to see more of you vote. By the way, I'd like to see more of you sign up for thesportstuff.com. Do sign up. It's more than worth it. And I also want you to make sure you do call in to the phone lines. Again, I'm going to bring it up again because I need you to call in, folks. Need you to call in. 209-736-7877. 209-736-7877 is the voicemail. And also you can contact me on thesportstuff.com. Private message me on there. Or PaladinoLive@yahoo.com. PaladinoLive@yahoo.com. Also on Facebook, I am Joey Awaijan. The last name is Awaijan and is in November, E. So add me on Facebook. Join my Facebook group, Paladino Live Productions. So love to have you on board. Thank you all for listening. Go Vikings, as I think we're going to be 2-0 next week, folks. I think we are. And we'll get to that when the time comes. Until then, take care.